problems in life. One of the elements as we talk about communities and the development of brotherhood is the issue of conflict and disagreements that happen. Disagreement, anytime you put two people together, there will be disagreement. And there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, a human being has a nafs, has a soul, has an identity, has an opinion. And that when you put someone else with an opinion in the same space, it's logical, it's legitimate that disagreement can happen, and at times does happen. The question is, how do we solve this? And the truth of the matter is that no one really teaches you how to fight. All you learn about having a disagreement and an argument is what you see from others. No one actually sits and takes the time to talk to you about the process of having a conflict and having good conflict resolution. And if, for example, those who are around you argue and disagree in an inappropriate fashion, that's what you learn. We tend to fight the way our parents fought or the way our elders fought, and disagree the way our elders fought and disagree. But within Islam, there are points of discussion to explain to us the etiquette of having a disagreement, the process of having a conflict and how to resolve it. And as such, tonight we'll mention two things. What do we do when we see someone else have a conflict, and what do we do when we have a conflict? Remember, these are introductory lessons to the subject. This is not exhaustive. What I mean to say by that is that just because these are the general guidelines that are shared in tonight's discussion, doesn't mean this is the only solution, and at times, it's good to seek assistance in how do we solve and resolve a conflict. We'll begin with the mention of resolving conflicts in our community. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's a joke that's told, and if you get it, I'll appreciate you. Jazakumullah khair. Our biggest problem is apathy, but nobody cares. I don't know if you got it. Kalimatil apathy. Apathy means not caring about something. That one of our biggest problems in society is we don't care about anything, and nobody cares that this is the problem that we have. That's the joke. But the truth is, apathy is an American condition that's taught to say, if it has nothing to do with you, don't get involved. If it's not about you or if it's not for you, don't get into the middle of it. And many times what happens is when we see two believers in a conflict, we say it has nothing to do with me. It's not my problem. I'm not the one who's fighting. I'm not the one who's disagreeing. That disagreement is between those two people, not anything to do with me. And we walk away from this. In Islam, the concept of apathy is not permissible. Meaning to be apathetic, to say I don't care, is not allowed. As a matter of fact, when we take a look at the Furu' ad-Din and we talk about the actions of Islam, in there very clearly is Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahi anil Munkar. Enjoin the good, forbid the evil. These two principles give us the instruction that you should have an opinion about what's going on around you, and at times it's religiously obligatory for you to have an opinion. Not having an opinion sometimes is even more harmful to us than when we actually focus and do what Islam instructs us to. I'll give you an example of this that happens today in society. Us as Muslimin, as a minority who live in this country, we know that alcohol is haram. But we see it in society, we see it in the markets, we see it in these places, and we say, what can I do about it? And we say, what do I have to do with this? I have nothing to do with this. I have nothing to do with this. So we become apathetic to the issue. And what happens as a consequence, we don't talk about it in our house because we say it just exists. What can I say about it? If I tell my kids it's bad, if I tell them this, they should already know it's bad. Why do I need to talk about it? The culture of the house then becomes to say that my parents don't do this, but what if I want to try it? And we wind up with this issue where, for example, in households where it's not a discussion in the house to say this is haram, it's forbidden. If Allah allowed me, I would destroy this. I would get rid of this. I hate this item. That this is a horrible thing because Allah hates it, I hate it. The child becomes indifferent to the subject because we're not talking about it. And then tomorrow when someone approaches the child with this, they may say, yes, my father doesn't do it, my mother doesn't do it, but I'll do it. Why? Because they saw apathy in the household. They saw that we didn't care about it, we didn't have an opinion. Everything that is a sin in the religion of Islam, whether it's someone who I know who does it or someone who I don't know who does it, my opinion has to be that I dislike this item And at least in my house, I need to communicate that Islam hates this and therefore we dislike it and we don't do this because it brings the anger of Allah. In this context, apathy is very dangerous and a negative quality to possess. Islam didn't want us to be apathetic about this. Islam wanted us to have an opinion and to care. If something is good, we join it. If we can't join it, we speak good about it. If we can't speak good about it, in our hearts we keep it. Ya right, if Allah gave me tawfiq, I would go and help these people. I would be supporting them. I would be with good people. And the same way, if there is someone bad, I stop him. If I can't stop him, I speak against the concept. I speak out against the fact that this is something Allah hates and therefore I hate it. And if I can't, then in myself, I keep the intention that, oh, if Allah gave me the ability, I would be one who stood against this. This is also reflected even in ziyarah. Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum fa'afuza ma'akum fawzan azima. The same thing when we hear about the story of Karbala, when we hear about the companions and the ashab of Imam Hussein, we're not indifferent to it to say, oh, that was for them and they did good things. We turn and we say, no, I want to be part of those people. I want to join in their goodness. Woe that I could have been with them, I would have attained a great victory with them. This mentality is very important and it should be applied to all attributes of our life, especially in our community. Such that if in our community we see two brothers or two community members who are fighting and disagreeing, we can't be indifferent to it. We have to have an opinion about it. We have to bring peace in that relationship. Which is why Allah commands this to us in Surah Al-Hujurat, in the verse that we began our discussion with, where Allah says, وَإِن تَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. That if there are two parties of mu'mineen who are arguing, fighting, quarreling, make peace between them. Allah has given us the command, He's given us the instruction that your obligation is to make peace in your community. Your obligation is to bring people together. It's not enough to say, oh, they're fighting, what do I have to do with it? They're both friends of mine, why should I get in the middle of it? No, Allah tells us get in the middle to make peace. It's something that Allah wants from us. Allah continues the verse and He explains it. فَإِن بَغَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا عَلَى الْأُخْرَى فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِيَ إِلَىٰ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. And if you find that one is oppressive and one acts wrongly against the other, your responsibility is أَمَرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ نَهْيًا الْمُنْكَرِ. Enjoin those who are doing right. Stand against the one who is oppressing and bring the one who is the oppressor back to the path of Allah. فَإِن فَاءَتْ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا بِالْعَدْلِ وَأَقْسِطُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ. The verse completes with saying that how do we go through this process? That if eventually it comes to the point that they return back to the command of Allah and they leave the position of being against the command of Allah, then make peace between them and be just between them. Don't be excessive and don't remember the fact that one was mistaken, but rather that they came to equity and they changed their behavior and they improved their character. We see our Prophet used to emphasize this process of making peace and paying attention to. Don't be indifferent to conflict. Be involved. Our Prophet would say, إِصْلَاحُ ذَاتِ الْبَيْنِ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ أَعَمِّةِ الصَّلَاةِ وَالصِّيَامِ. Reconciling between two people is more rewarded in the eyes of Allah than many prayers or years of prayers and fasting. Meaning Allah loves this process of creating reconciliation. He's someone who invites us to reconciliation. It is our job to go and to make peace between our brothers. Our sixth Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam, صدقة يحبها الله إصلاح بين الناس إذا تفاسدوا. Imam Sadiq would explain that a charity that is beloved to Allah is to make peace between people when they have become divided. The Ahlul Bayt would teach us about this frequently, that in your communities, pay attention to one another, and where you see disagreement, attempt to make peace, bring people back together. If you look at even the origination of Islam, the success of Islam is on the ability to make peace between people. When our Prophet leaves the city of Mecca and comes to the city of Medina, the tribes of Aus and Khazraj have been fighting for over 100 years. Over 100 years of fighting. They can't get along. The success of Islam relied on the Prophet making peace between them, that eventually all of them then together became the Ansar. They became the helpers. They were the ones who helped establish the fundamentals upon which Islam existed and stood in society. So first and foremost, the important part is that when we look at conflict, that conflict is not something that if it has nothing to do with me, I'm indifferent to it. Especially when it exists in our community, amongst our families, amongst our friends. Islam wants us to have an opinion. Islam invites us to have an opinion and forces us to have an opinion and to correct those issues. Now, this is where it gets into the interesting point. How do we now solve conflict that exists within ourselves and the issues that we face amongst our own community or in our household? What do I do when I'm in a conflict? When I face a conflict, there is an etiquette to having a disagreement. The mistake that most of us make is when I get into a conflict with someone, I get emotional. I'm entirely emotional. I'm angry. Have you ever thought about in the moment that you're angry and you're disagreeing with someone and you're having a conflict with someone, what's the resolution? What's going to end this conflict? What's going to solve the problem? And most of the time when we're angry in a disagreement, we have no solution to the problem. I just want to make the other person feel bad. That's all I'm thinking about. Is that because I'm hurt or I'm unhappy, you should be unhappy. I will punish you for this. Until you feel as bad as I feel, I will not be satisfied. This is the mistake that we make. If I have a conflict with someone, emotion is not going to be the way that I solve it. Anger is not going to be the solution. Technical difficulty solved. See, no anger. Without anger, we can fix this. Anger in conflict is very dangerous. Imam Sadiq explains and he says, Al-ghadabu miftahu kullu shar. That when I approach with anger, anger is the key to all of the evils and difficulties. When I have a disagreement with someone and my disagreement is based in anger, I'm only going to create evil, harm, and create a greater wound than already exists by the process of disagreement. Allah always promotes the control of anger. When Allah describes the people of Jannah, He says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. This verse of the Quran is an instruction to us that if you want to be the people of heaven, the attributes you need to possess is that you are those who give from your wealth in ease and in difficulty, and you control your anger. Ahl al-Jannah, humul kadhimin. This is why it's one of the titles of the A'immah, al-Kadhim, one who controlled his anger, one who suppressed his anger. Which is why, if we're going to have a disagreement, the first thing I need to do in a disagreement is control my anger. I need to reduce my anger. The attribute of controlling anger was so important. There's a narration that talks about that our Prophet saw people in his time having a strongman competition. Now, one of the descriptions of how they had strongman competitions, they would take stones and see how far they could throw them. Or they would carry stones, much the same way they do today. If you take a look at strongman competition, they're still doing the same things. Throwing stones, lifting heavy things. Rasulullah sees them performing this action, and he says, shall I tell you who is the strongest amongst you? Now, when Rasulullah makes this type of a statement, the people there become excited. They say, we're doing all this effort and contesting, you can just tell us then. Rasulullah replies and he says, the one who controls his anger is the strongest amongst all of you. The control of anger is one of the most important fundamentals that if I'm going to get into a conflict, for me to come to a good solution, I have to remove the emotion and the anger from the conflict. Once I can get rid of the anger, now I can think about what's the resolution to my problem. How do I solve this problem? In this process, when I think about it intellectually, and I think about, okay, I'm angry at this person, I'm upset with this person, I disagree with this person. I put the anger to the side, and I think, what will make me happy in this situation? What will correct the problem? Most of the time, the problem can simply be corrected by ensuring the other person has understood my opinion. They understand where I'm coming from, and giving them the opportunity to come to an understanding of what it is that I'm trying to convey to them. Which is why we have a hadith that talk about, as well as verses of Quran that talk about, Be careful of the words that you use. If you want to be in a disagreement, don't use language emotionally. If you use language emotionally, you'll make the situation worse. Instead, speak to people. Look at the statement of Imam al-Baqir. قُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ أَحْسَنُ مَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يُقَالُ لَكُمْ. Speak to people in such a way, the way you like to be spoken to. We see in the Quran, Allah makes أَدْعُ إِلَىٰ سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Here Allah is giving the explanation. Invite to the path of your Lord and argue with them in the best of manners. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. As soon as emotion is out, now I use the second phase, which is to control my language and to choose my words wisely and speak to someone else the way I want to be spoken to. If I'm emotional in a conflict, I'm never going to solve it. The mistake we make is, I never want to be in a conflict. No, this is reality. In reality, you're going to disagree with people. Even people you love, you're going to have disagreements with them. It happens, everybody does. This fallacy that exists that, if I love my wife, I'll never fight with her. Blah, blah, blah. Or I love my husband, I'll never argue with him. No, I'm sorry to tell you, it's going to happen. You take two people who have complete personalities and put them into one environment, they're going to disagree. It's natural, it's reality. There's nothing wrong with that. The question is, what do you do in the etiquette of solving it? The other element is sometimes what we like to do is when I get angry, what do? I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to solve the issue. I'm going to let it go. This is not something that's very easy to do. Why? Because there's a time limit of how long you can be angry. Did you know you're not allowed to be angry for as long as you want? Haram alayk. It's forbidden. We have a statement from our holy prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لا يحل لمسلم أن يحجر أخاه فوق ثلاث فمن هجر فوق ثلاث فمات دخل النار. Our prophet gave us instruction. You're allowed for a Muslim to abandon, to be angry with, to separate from your brother for 3 days. If it's more than 3 days and you die in that state of being angry with your brother, Allah will enter you into the fire of hell. Na'udhu billah. Meaning in the etiquette of fighting, I can be angry with you. 3 days is my limit. I have 3 days I can be angry and then I need to solve this. Otherwise it's a sin on both of the participants. The one who initiated and the one who replied. We can't be upset and angry for as long as we want. We can't avoid the conflict or we can't avoid the confrontation forever. Rather, which is why, if I become angry and I need to separate myself, no problem, separate yourself. Give yourself the time to think about. Control your emotion, reduce your anger, think about your statements, use good language, but don't let 3 days go by. Because after that, I am suffering from a sin as much as you are. This is the command of Rasulullah, it's not permissible for us. Which is why the ideal is that when someone upsets me or disagrees with me, the etiquette of conflict is it's going to happen, I'm going to disagree, but approach that conflict with patience. And understand something, the same way I want someone to give me the benefit of the doubt when something goes wrong, give them the benefit of the doubt. And the way we give someone the benefit of the doubt is patience. We see the statement of our 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salam. You guys are going to make me angry. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. الصبر والصدق والحلم جنة لا تخرق. Patience, truthfulness, and forbearance are a shield that cannot be pierced. Someone comes to you with a conflict. If I can have patience in this conflict, to not reply to them immediately, to respond to their anger immediately. 1. 2, I reply with truthfulness and honesty if I need to speak. The most difficult of these is hilm. Hilm is often mistranslated or misinterpreted as simply being forbearance. Do you know what this actually means, what this hilm actually is? It means to be kind to someone even when I'm right. To not force them to subjugation when I'm right. To be patient with someone even when they're wrong. What happens most of the time? We say, I would be patient, but I'm right. I have rights with me. No, that's what hilm is. The greatest place where you see hilm, that you should see hilm, is in the example of a parent and a child. The parent knows what the right thing is. They know what should be done. And the child still makes the mistake. When you find that parent treat the child kindly, that is hilm. The child was wrong, but I wasn't harsh with them. I wasn't abusive with them. That is the example of hilm, and that's the example that Imam Rada is teaching us as well too. That be careful. Be careful that even when you're right, it doesn't justify your anger, it doesn't justify the abuse that you can give a person. We see in the Quran, Allah explains to us, وَلَا تَسْتَوِ الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا سَيِّئَةُ أَدْفَعَ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Allah explains and He says, the two are not alike. Good and evil are not the same. Repel evil, repel anger, repel these bad qualities with what is best. And he between whom you and them is enmity and disagreement, if you do it with kindness, with patience, then it will be as if he was a warm friend for you, a supporter for you. Allah is giving the instruction that in conflict, try to be patient. Control your anger. Remove emotion. Don't let too much time pass. Be careful of the language that you use. And in this, you'll be able to find a way to solve the conflict and resolve the problems that are present. Understand something. Don't leave it the fact that you're wrong, you have to come to me. That doesn't work in Islam. In Islam, if there's a disagreement, there's two ways it can go. That either one, the person who is wrong admits it. But if 3 days pass and both of us are going to go through a sin, then I don't care. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to correct my relationship with you. Why? Because of the status that it holds with Allah. Briefly we'll mention, there's a description our Prophet presents and he says that the a'mal of every believer are presented to Allah on the day of Monday and Thursday. Allah forgives everyone from the believers except those who have enmity and adawa between himself and his brother. And Allah then refuses to forgive their mistakes and their sins until they reconcile with each other. If this is the status in the eyes of Allah, then when I have a conflict, it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. What I want with Allah is greater than what I want from you. So let me make peace with you. Let me make peace with you so that Allah is pleased with me. The most important thing in conflict, very important thing in conflict, is to forgive. But not the way American culture forgives, right? Because American culture says what? I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. Right? This is what American society teaches you. I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. What if Allah did that to you? And Allah says, fine, I forgave you, but I'll never forget. You stand before Allah in mahshar on the day of judgment in front of Him and say, oh Allah, let me go to heaven. And Allah says, I didn't forget the sins that you committed. I forgave them. So therefore you had life, you had rizq, you had benefit, but I didn't forget them. The mercy of Allah's forgiveness is such. Remember something, when you commit a sin, there are a lot of elements involved between you and the sin. Because if you commit the sin, Allah knows you committed the sin. So do the angels who are writing your actions, your good and your bad. So do the angels who bring down the command of Allah for the one who has sinned. That at times there are certain sins that block our rizq, block our health. They bring difficulties upon us. Allahumma ghfir li adh-dhunub allati tahbisu ad-du'a. When we talk about those dhunub and du'a kumail, from amongst them the one that prevents your du'a from reaching, what? There are malaika there who say because of the sins that you have, this du'a is not accepted. The mercy of Allah is such, when He forgives you, every angel who was involved in that process, He wipes it from their memory as if it never happened. That not even the malaika think badly of you when you seek istighfar with Allah. Then why is it that when you seek istighfar with me, I threaten you and I tell you, I'll never forget your mistake. I'll always punish you for your mistake. I've forgiven you for it, but I can't forget it. The attribute of Iman, and especially in conflict, is that once someone seeks forgiveness, once we've made resolution, forget it. Don't pay attention to it. Forgive the way you want Allah to forgive you. Which is why in Surah Nur, verse 22, Allah makes the statement, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَسْفَحُوا أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah gives the instruction, then pardon and turn away, forget the mistakes of others. Don't you love that Allah should forgive you and that Allah is all forgiving and merciful? If I want the mercy of Allah and the forgiveness of Allah, then I have to be forgiving and merciful now, which is one of the strongest fundamentals about having a conflict in our family, in our community and society. I think what's happened is that they've decided the lecture is complete now, so they've turned off the microphone on me. I'm kidding, they haven't done that. Let's raise our hands in dua. نَدَعُوكَ بِاسْمِكَ الْعَظِيمِ الْأَعْظَمِ الْأَعَزِّ الْأَجَلِّ الْأَكْرَمِ. 10 times we call out, Ya Allah, 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 Ya Mahmud بحق محمد, Ya أعلى بحق علي, Ya فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة, Ya محسن بحق الحسن, Ya قديم الأحسان بحق الحسين. Oh Allah, accept this small ibadat from us. Ya Allah, give the thawab of this majlis, this mention of Quran and dhikr of Ahlul Bayt and this salat and siyam of our day, to our marhumin, the marhumin of today's sponsors, all those who are in need of dua. Ya Allah, we have gathered here with hajat by the right of the month of Ramadan, by the right of the Quran and Ahlul Bayt, fulfill our hajat. Those amongst our families, our communities that are sick and suffering through disease and difficulty, give shafa'at to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Those who are suffering through strife and insecurity and war, Ya Allah, give aman to the believers wherever they are. Oh Allah, keep our children on the upright path of Islam. Hasten the reappearance of Sahibul Zaman. Make us and our families from the upright supporters of the Imam of our time. Entitle us to ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt in this world, shafa of Ahlul Bayt in the hereafter. 1 Surah Fatiha, 3 times Surah Ikhlas, لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات مع الصلوات.